Well, here we are. This is the official podcast that you and I have been trying to do now for a few years, and it is finally happening. And I think what we're calling this, well, actually, I don't think, I know, this is, and welcome to, if you're just tuning in, this is the Fishing Guides Angle. And we are here. I'm Michael Littlejohn.
And I'm Terri Littlejohn.
This is my better half, my wife. And we are going to kick this thing off and do a weekly podcast. And folks, we are going to break down not only all of life's issues, but we're going to do it in a way from an angle from a fishing guide's perspective. And really, this podcast, we've talked about this a lot.
Right.
We want to unpack just a lot of what we've learned in our journey as career fishing guides, and also make it as humorous and real.
And we're not real funny, so I don't know about all that.
As possible. We've in this journey, and it's been a long journey, we've learned a lot about a lot of things when it comes to the fishing industry. Fishing guides, hiring fishing guides, firing fishing guides, all the way across the board. And what we want to do is we want to spend an hour each week just really talking real candidly with opinions. Some of them will be highly opinionated, some of them won't, about really our stories and kind of, what we've learned and experiences, things we've seen, some of the stories that we've had from our boats, from people falling in the water to,
oh Lord,
just crazy things happening, running out of fuel, what customers say about it, customers that have been upset with us, customers that have had great trips.
We've got some really good customers though, because I think we're on the low end of being upset.
Well, you never know. I mean, I've had customers, what happens when you get out there and, these people have driven in all the way from Kansas, and they, get down here, and for 2 days, the fishing is absolutely terrible,
Yeah. And then it happens.
And what do you do?
Not very often, but it happens.
But in this podcast, we're going to talk about really how we feel about trips like that. And,
I got to say one thing. The one thing that I hated the most that was said. What's the one thing that you think that I...
Oh, I already know what you're going to say.
What is it?
You're going to say that you have been on the boat most of the day and it's been tough, and the customer is going to look at you and go, well, Terri, it's not called, it's fishing. It's not catching. It's not called catching. It's called fishing.
Yep, that's it.
Yeah, that's not.
Hey guys, if you're going to go with a guide and you're fishing, don't say that.
Well,
but
yeah. So
it's kind of true.
It's really interesting, right? So there's a lot of people, and there may be even some people that are tuning in. You've been with a fishing guide. You've got stories about, the good trips, and you got stories about the bad trips, and you got stories about the ones in between. But there's a lot of people out there that don't even understand what a fishing guide is, that you can even hire a person, whether it's a male or female, to take you out and spend the day with you, your buddies, your friends, your family, whatever the case is.
Because when I met you, all I knew was that you fished, and then you showed up at my house one day with a boat, and I was like, "That's a big boat." I mean, because at the time I'd never seen a boat that big, but yeah.
Well, if I remember right, when we first met, and I was already running guided trips. I wasn't doing it in a full-time basis, but I was guiding trips, and I think I had a trip on Cedar Creek Lake a few days from then, and you had one of these like deer in the headlights, like, you do what? Like, what?
Who takes someone fishing? I had never heard of that until we met.
Well, take someone fishing and get paid for it.
Paid for it, yeah.
Or who would pay somebody to take them?
Like a hunting guide. I've heard of that, but no. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, and,
It's like, oh. Then I thought, how much money would somebody pay you to take them fishing? So let's start with that, Michael Littlejohn. What brought you into the guide business? Like, what started it?
Well, as probably a lot of people that are listening, you grew up, well, maybe you did or didn't. I grew up in a family where my dad and my grandfather were both super, super involved with the hunting and fishing, world. And what I mean by this, they weren't like professionals at it, but like any free time that they had, they wanted to be on the water. We had a small lake house at Cedar Creek Lake. It was, when I say lake house, guys, it was a lake trailer. You know what I mean? But here's what's crazy about that is that when I think back when I was like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, that place was the Taj Mahal.
It was a mansion.
Yeah, and now that, you go back and you do a little drive-by, how after you sold your property and then you haven't been there in 10 years, then you sneak back by there just to see what's going on. You look at it and you go, what? Like, that place right there was so special, 30 years ago.
But it wasn't the house. What went on.
It was what went on. Exactly. So what got me into it was obviously my dad and my grandfather. Got me into fishing. We fished every weekend that the weather would allow. Fish fries, we ate fish. They came from the school where there was no point in going fishing if you aren't going to keep what you caught. And it was pointless to go and try to catch something to let it go. That was like, why would you do that? And it's funny because we'll talk in this podcast about customers that thought they wanted to let the big ones go, but then once that big one got in the boat and they're sitting there holding it, they're like, I'm not putting that. They kind of had a change of heart, and then we had to deal with that. But my dad, when I was in college, I've never even heard of a fishing guide at this point at all. I didn't know that you could pay someone to take you fishing. I didn't know that. But my dad was selling some restaurant equipment out of a restaurant that I think had gone under, and he had got it. And actually, this was kind of a business he was doing along with a bunch of other stuff that he did as I grew up.
Of all trades.
Yeah. And so he had an auction that weekend in the Dallas area, Dallas, Texas. By the way, this is, we have a guide service, Lake Tawakoni.
And off on another direction. Yeah.
We do. We have a guide service. We're guides. I'm a full-time guide. My wife has been a guide for many years.
Retired.
But has found herself running a lodge here that we've recently started in the last 5 years. But tangentially, let me divert back to what I was saying. Getting into the guide business. My dad had some customers flying in from California, and they love to fish. And what I didn't know is they actually had hired a guide on a nearby lake every month that they came to this auction. So evidently these guys bought equipment from the Dallas auction from California. They'd fly in, they would bid on it, and then it would all get shipped back to California.
Yeah.
Because I think it was cheaper to buy in Texas. I don't know how all that worked. Anyways, somehow my dad asked me to take these guys. I don't know if their trip at this other lake fell through or the guide was sick or whatever, but I got the call. It's like the backup quarterback, that all of a sudden the starting quarterback gets hurt, and all of a sudden they call you up. Okay, Tom Brady, time to go. Drew Bledsoe's hurt, kind of thing. And so Dad said, look, I need you to take these. And it was kind of like, it wasn't like, I want you to do it, or would you enjoy doing it, or would you do it? He was like, you have to take these people fishing. Yeah. I was like, okay.
Just a regular guy.
Oh, I'm just a broke college kid. I'm 19 or 20 years old, but, I had grown up fishing. I had some experience, and I had a little bit of confidence. I'd been on some fish. We were going to go crappie fishing. I had some brush piles that were really on fire. And so I agreed. He agreed to pay for the fuel to help me out a little bit, because college kid, come on, you don't have.
19-year-olds have a boat.
Well, I pretty much had a boat just about before I had a car. So, it was one of those kind of deals.
Yeah, go ahead.
So long story short is I took these guys fishing, and it was a really windy day. We got out there, we got on this brush pile, and we killed the crappie. Matter of fact, we were fishing minnows. They didn't want to fish jigs. I told them we could catch them on jigs, but they wanted to fish minnows. And so we got out there and we caught a 4-man limit. We caught 100 crappie in about 4 or 5 hours. And we came back to the dock. I cleaned all the fish. And as I was cleaning fish, I don't remember this guy's name for the life of me. I remember he had real long hair, kind of hippie kind of deal. He had a ponytail, a super nice guy. And he came up to me and he put his arm around me, or kind of on my shoulder as I was filleting the fish. And he said, look, we're here once a month on a Saturday at this auction, and we've been going on a guided fishing trip with a guide out of Richland Chambers, which was about an hour south of Cedar Creek, or maybe not quite that far. And he said, we had a better time today fishing with you, and we caught more fish than we catch with him. How would you feel if once a month when we come into this auction that you take us fishing, and I will pay you what we pay our guide down at Richland Chambers? And I kind of looked at him and I thought, okay, because I knew this trip here that I ran, there was no money to be exchanged. This was something I was doing for my dad.
Right.
And he looked at me, and I'm looking at him, and there kind of this awkward silence. And I said, well, how much are you paying the guy down at Richland Chambers? I'm thinking like, $100, $200, that'd be awesome. And he looked at me and said, I'm paying him $300 for us to go fishing for 4 hours. And if you do, and if he does a really good job, then we tip him an extra $100 to $150, depending on, how well he does. And he said, and I would be willing to do that for you if you'd be willing to take us. And I said, wait a second, let me make sure I understand this correctly. You want to pay me once a month to take you and your buddies fishing. And all of a sudden, the light bulb went off. And I went, you got to be kidding me. I can actually make money doing something that I absolutely love, that I'm going to be doing anyway. In other words, if you don't show up, I'm still going fishing.
It's a no-brainer.
So, yeah. And so that was the birth, really, of the whole idea of me being a guide. And then, of course, it didn't take long to realize if there's one group of guys that would pay me to take them fishing, there's got to be two.
But in the meantime, you graduated from college and, started your life and, had other jobs, but you've always guided part-time until 2010, right?
Till 2010. Right. And then, we got married, and then, we kind of got to a place where, we were kind of at the Y in the road, I guess you could say. And, we were like, okay, what really are we going to do? We had some businesses that were a lot of fun. But yeah, I'll never forget, you came to me and you said, what do you want to do? Like, really, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what I really want to do, I really want to full time every day take people fishing.
And you know how many guys right now that are 15, 16, 18, 20, 25, 45, thinking that's the dream job, that's the dream job.
Well, yeah.
And it happened to you.
I mean, it did. I mean, we talk about the dream job. We talk about, about, is it really the dream job?
Yeah.
There's, it's funny when you do something that you love and then you do it as a career. There's always the challenges that come that you don't see in the in the beginning. And that's what we're going to do on this podcast. We're going to talk about a lot of those frustrations and things that we've, things that we've run into and things that we've struggled with. I could think of 20 of them on the top of my head right now.
It's been a lot. Yeah. So we started in 2000. Well, you guiding in 2010. I came along to start guiding in 2012. And so, I mean, now we're 15 years in. And it's just been crazy because we went from 1 boat to 2 boats to 3 boats to 5 boats. And now we're 6 boats in freshwater. And then we have saltwater business down on the coast of Port O'Connor. So
yeah, it's grown. It's one of those things where, we've talked about this before, but, fishing is a business. When you're a guide, it's a business.
Right.
And, and that's something that a lot of fishing guides, I feel like, I sit back and I like to watch. I mean, I'm older now. I've been in the career a long time. I've been fishing, as a fishing guide for 23 or 24 years now. And so I felt like at this point in my career, with all the gray hair that I've got, and slowing down a little bit, I still have the passion, but I like to sit back and I enjoy watching the new guys, coming on the scene, just so passionate about coming into the, doing what they love. And then, it's like some do really well and they understand the business side of the business.
Because it's a business.
And then some come in and they just hit it running full speed, but they're not paying attention to all of the other parts that are a business.
Right.
And it's like, you hate to see them crash and burn, but you feel like after doing this for as long as we've done it, we've been successful at it. definitely had our setbacks, but we've been able to be successful in the fishing business. You definitely see the side of those that start that do it right, and then you see the side that those that just don't do it right. And it's I always say this to the guys. We have a lot of guides that work for us, and we always try to explain to them, look, this business is it's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Right. It is. That's
You got to understand, if you're going to be a fishing guide and take families, corporate business, everything else under the sun, people fishing, you're dealing with so many different kinds of people, different from different backgrounds. You take angry people fishing, you take happy people fishing, you take married people fishing who have arguments on your boat sometimes, and sometimes you feel like your marital counselor on the boat at times. You see all these different facets of people. And it's amazing that through all the years of doing this, that aside from all the friends we made and great relationship we made, you've really been able. I as a career fishing guide, I've been able to see all walks of life, and some have been a lot prettier than others. The time I remember, this was a crazy thing. We took. I don't know if you remember this, but I took and I don't know how exactly it worked out, but we had a guy that had a last request to fit and fish. And I don't know what the situation was, but the guy had actually been convicted of a crime. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I'm comfortable taking this guy out. But anyways, took him out. It ended up being a really good thing, but you just never know, being a fishing guide, exactly who you're going to have on your boat.
Yeah. And we've had last fishing trips, and not talking about I'm talking about going away, visiting the Lord. We've had last fishing trips with a lot of people, a lot of people that have said, hey, we take my dad, and, so that's pretty emotional, and you don't forget those.
Yeah. You're talking about when they call and they say, look, my dad's got stage 4 cancer.
Yeah. And that happened.
We fished, our whole lives together, and he's got one more trip in him, and we want y'all to take him.
Just like any job, when you have customers, you have clients or whatever, and it's like, you get attached to these people. You build relationships on the boat. We've built relationships with some of our customers that have lasted, 15 years already.
Yeah.
We've made some of our best friends, and a lot of these people just keep coming back. But we've had a lot, we've had some people doing it this long. We've had some people that, aren't here anymore. We've fished with 5-year-olds that now come back at 20-year-olds and fish with us, which is crazy.
I fish with, I think you're referring to Case probably, or
Cases.
It's just crazy to see, like you said, you put him on a 50 pound blue cat.
A chukka.
Back when he was maybe 6 or 7.
He was I think he was 9, and he's in his 20s now.
Yeah, and just it blows your mind that you've done this long enough. We've done this long enough, and we've seen, in a couple more years, he'll probably get married. And then, a couple more years after that, he'll have kids, and then, a couple of years after that kid will be here.
It's crazy now too, because he's actually, from coming and fishing with me, and, he's been back several times since then. He actually got involved into the guiding business. He's guiding it's hunting, but he's in the guide business,
right?
So, which is kind of cool.
It's exciting.
Good people. We've had so much fun, and we've had some amazing guides that work with us over the years. We had a good spurt for a while. We had these guides that had been with us, our family with us for a long time, and some retired, and some went on to do other things. It's when you talk about running a marathon, it's not a sprint. You can get burned out really easy. Guiding. It is such a hard job. I mean, it's so physical. You go to work and you've got to perform. Like any job, you've got to perform. But when you're guiding and you got a new set of people that walk in on you, and they're at Disneyland, they arrive on our front porch. They're at Disneyland, and they've waited sometimes 6 months because it's expensive to go fishing. And when they get on our boats, they expect to catch fish. You can have a great relationship on the boat. You can have a lot of fun on the boat. You can laugh. But if you don't put fish in the boat and those customers leave, yeah, we had a good time, but we didn't catch fish. And you know what? As much as they like you on the boat, they probably won't be back.
Yeah, and they may give you one. The customers typically will give you one strike, especially if they fished with you before.
Yeah.
and they've had good
If they've
trips,
had a good trip before, yeah, they do that.
and then
Yeah.
you have a bad day, cold front came through, something happened, and then
Like a bluebird day.
a bluebird day, whatever you want to say. They'll come back and give you one more, but if you throw a bomb on the second trip, nothing personal, but it's like, look, this is hard-earned money, and so like you just said, nothing replaces,
Right.
putting fish in the boat.
And I, being a guide, it's so stressful because in your mind, all you want to do is put people on fish. That's all you want to do. I mean, you want to have a good time on the boat.
Yeah.
But in your mind, you're an entertainer on the boat. You're not just a fisherman. You're an entertainer. You're a lawyer. You're a, whatever you want to call it. You're the judge on the boat sometimes, and you're a babysitter sometimes. And so your main goal is, in the back of your mind, these people are talking to you sometimes and you're having conversations, but you're like, where's the fish? Where am I going? Where's my next spot? Where about, where do I want to go to?
Right. And we're talking about nature here. We're talking about fish. We're talking we're talking about day in, day out, putting people on quality fish. And, in our business, our niche is quantity of fish.
Yeah.
That is what we cut our teeth on. It's what we still do. We run, you want to call it a meat haul trip. We have a lot of people that fish with us.
Right.
So
you guys are probably wondering, I don't think we've even told people what we do. So we are freshwater fishing guides on Lake Tawakoni in Northeast Texas, 45 miles east of Dallas. And what we fish for are striper, hybrid striper, crappie, catfish, channel catfish, blue catfish, and trophy monster blue catfish.
You missed.
I'm a hybrid striper, catfish, crappie. No, I didn't.
Yeah, you missed one.
What did I miss?
If anybody's listening to the podcast here, which who knows if
white bass.
There you go, right?
Or what are they? White bass, or what is the other word they call them?
Some people call them sand bass.
Sand bass, yeah. My dad calls them sand bass. I grew up fishing with my daddy, and we had 4 kids, and so I was the one that liked to go fishing. And as a 3-year-old, my dad got to go fishing by taking me with him, because when you had 4 kids, when mom could get a break with one of them gone.
And you were the one. Most of the time, I mean, every once in a while he took a few of the, Don or Keith, but most of the time he took you.
Yeah.
And I can understand why, because I like to take you fishing too.
But the love of fishing was, to me, it was, it's like some people can now, kids now, they watch it on YouTube, they watch it on social media, they'll scroll through and like, oh, I want to do that. But back in the day, I mean, we had a few shows on TV. What did we have? A few shows, fishing.
Oh, you had like Bill Dance?
Bill Dance and the blonde guy.
Jimmy Houston. Jimmy Houston.
So y'all might remember those. But now, but back in the day, all that I had to look up to know anything about fishing was my dad. No one else in my dad's family fished but my dad. None of his brothers fished. And on my mom's side, they fished a little bit, but not like.
Did he ever tell you like how he got into fishing?
I think he just started on his own. I don't think I know his dad didn't teach him to fish. Yeah. So he just.
There had to be some
that's
person, or maybe he saw someone
get you
at the car wash.
Right.
Something,
But my dad, we would get up and he would wake me up early in the morning, pitch black outside. And he would always stop at the 7-Eleven. No, it was called the Stop and Go. He would stop at the Stop and Go inside and get a little package of cinnamon rolls, Mrs. Baird cinnamon rolls.
Oh man, those actually sound good right now.
Little Mrs. Baird cinnamon rolls.
Oh, I know. They're in a little
to that as much as I did anything. And so I would sit on the boat and I'd play with my Barbies and I would fish, or he would hook the fish and let me reel it in as a little girl. I remember that. I can remember the smells. I can remember the carpet in the boat. I can remember how stinky the tackle box was. Like, I remember all of that.
Yeah.
But my love for fishing, seeing my dad, reel it in, you got it, reel it. And how that made me feel as a little girl, and how proud it made me feel, how proud it made him that I caught fish. And so my entire life was all about fishing. When I had kids, I taught them to fish. I taught both of my boys how to use a bait caster. So it's, and they're a little older now. But anyway, so people have a true love for fishing, and that's how I got my start. Is until I met you. You brought me into a different style of fishing, because I remember when I would go with my dad fishing, we would fish for a couple hours, 2-3 hours, and I would be wore out. I'd sleep in the boat on the way to the boat ramp and on the way home. When I met you and we went fishing together for the first time, you fished for like 8-10 hours. And I remember getting off the boat and I thought I was going to die. I was just exhausted. And you build up the stamina for that though. But I don't, I think a lot of you guys listening out there, 3-4 hours on the boat's a lot. 8 hours is like incredible.
Well, let's ask, what is a good amount of time for you guys listening to spend? But my issue is that, I didn't, as a student, as a high school student, if you got, you go to school during the week,
right?
You had football practice in the evenings and you got games on Friday nights and then you had film on Saturday. So you only chance to fish was Saturday afternoon or on Sunday.
Yeah.
And so, who wanted to fish for 2 or 3 hours? You want to fish, you want to fish, daylight to literally dark. And then, that was way before cell phones. So, mom and dad were always wondering, when's Michael going to get home? And, I'd be at the local, I'd jump barbed wire fences and go, throw a bait caster and a whopper plopper, or actually back then it was like a jitterbug. And you throw in them ponds and catch some bass. So
I loved a rattle trap.
Yeah. The problem was I couldn't throw a rattle trap in the ponds because you would get in the moss. You get stuff.
I don't think I'd ever even fished in a pond. We always fished Lake Dallas, Lake Louisville, and then they built Joe Pool. But I was a little older, but yeah. I don't think I ever even fished in a pond.
Yeah. When they built Joe Pool, do you know that they let 200, I think someone's going to look it up and prove me wrong, but there was a certain number. And I think it was 200 people or 200 boats maybe, or whatever it was. And they counted them because my dad took me and Gary Neef and we camped out at Britton Park in the freaking cold or the heat or whatever it was. It was either hot or cold. I don't remember. I was young.
Yeah.
And we camped out and they gave us a number. It was like number 47 or number 62. And they launched you in consecutive order. And we got to be on the lake the first morning that it opened.
Wow.
And you know how many fish we caught?
0.
No fish.
Nada. Oh, yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. So, all right, we'll stop right here for a second. I want to check, make sure.
Okay. He's going to check the camera, guys. We did this the other day, and we were an hour in, and we realized it was not recording anymore. So, how are we doing? Okay, that's good. So let's change gears a little bit. A lot of these people, you guys that are obviously watching or listening to us or watching, you don't really know a lot about us. In a couple words, just tell them a little bit about who we are and what got us here.
Well, as far as got us to the larger scaled art guide service.
Just here to do a podcast. What have we done? Give them a little foresight and what we've done.
Well, we've always wanted to share the real stories of what really got us here and why we do what we do. And, I think we do this for maybe some different reasons than why other fishing guides do what they do.
Right.
And it just didn't seem like we co-host a Fox Sports TV show. We've got over 100 videos on YouTube, but most of them seem to be more either high energy customer based videos or maybe a how-to video. But the podcast format, like what we're doing here, it's more of we're just sitting at the campfire.
Right.
Really being honest about, what the guide service is to us, not only what it is to us, but how, being the name of the show, the Fishing Guide's Angle, how really in the daily life of a fishing guide, we've got we have a family, we have kids, we've got sons, we got daughter, we got, we
got 2 grand.
We got 2 granddaughters.
Shout out to Aubrey and Allie.
Yeah, absolutely. And how the guide, how being a career fishing guide, being involved in how we are, how that affects, all of that, because there's been so much sacrifice to grow the business, to be here. This is a weekend business. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't fish on a Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. And, we talked about this before. The days of the week to the fishing guide mean absolutely nothing.
Yeah, we usually don't know what day it is.
You don't know. You don't know what day it is. I don't know. But here's the deal is a banker or a school teacher, they go to work at a certain time.
Right.
They get off of work at a certain time. They have a very structured life, and there's nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, there's been a lot of times we both have talked about this where we feel like at certain times in our life that it would have been better if we would have had that, just because it defines more free time. Because let me tell you something, there's no better feeling, because I've been on the other side of the fence. I've been in the civilian world, if you will, and worked the Monday through Friday before. And there is a great feeling when you get to that Wednesday, hump day. And then, Thursday, that Friday is right on the horizon.
Right.
Boy, I'm going to tell you something, about 2, 3 o'clock on a Friday, you're thinking,
start slowing down everything you're doing. You're tired. Yeah.
It's a great feeling because you get to go and be off for 2 days. Now, a lot of people aren't off. They got kids, they got sports, they got stuff going on, but there's an end to your week. There's an end to your work. In the guide business, it's not like that.
It's not.
It just isn't. Especially if you grow your business and you've got, we run 5 full-time boats.
Right.
We got 4 captains that work for us, work for the business full time. They depend on this, on guiding solely for their income.
That's right. To feed their family.
And then we've got, Joey.
That's a lot of pressure on us.
Joey is he's a full-time, part-time guy. Once school's out, he's the head track coach in Midlothian. Once school's out, he's here full-time. And so there's a lot of moving parts with all of that. And we, being at the top of the food chain as far as getting business in and making sure that these guys have trips, there's a lot of stress that is involved with that. And it makes it, it's fun. But any business owner, I mean, if you own a plumbing company, if you own an air conditioning company, if you own a concrete company, and you own the business, right now that the business runs as good as you run it. The business is as good as much as you put in it. And you also know, if you own your own business and you're listening or you're watching, you also know that when you own your own business, you have very few days off.
Yeah.
Especially in the early years. Now, as you get further into it,
right.
You learn to delegate, you learn to put people in place, and then it gives you a little more time. Man, them first 10 years, it's,
Well, just like us, when we started building the lodge, that was exhausting, because we were trying to run a full-time guide service and incorporate building this resort that we built, Open Water Lodge over here on Tawakoni. We incorporated that while doing, and you GC'd it. You were GCing it. We were running to Home Depot after your trips. I was painting, I was cutting, I learned how to use a saw, skills.
This was the time of my life where I really didn't know
we did it
if we were going to make it. I mean, to tell you, there's been 2 times.
I lost like 30 pounds.
2 times in my marriage where I really didn't know if I had it in me to make it through. One of them was when we were guiding together.
That's a whole show.
And, and it was, I love the idea on paper, laying in bed, thinking about it, talking about it, my wife guiding with me. Great idea.
I did that for 7 years, y'all.
You did.
And
you did an awesome job.
I still deckhand with you down on the coast, and
But the pressure on the daily of, me coming in with a bunch of fish, and then you coming in not with as many fish, or you coming in with a bunch of fish, and then, hey, I thought.
You notice he didn't say, you coming in with a bunch of fish and me not. He kind of squirreled around that a little bit.
Actually, I think I said it both ways, did I not?
No, you did not.
We'll have to go back and listen to the podcast. I think I did. But the point is that there was a lot of pressure,
Yeah, it really was.
in our marriage.
Yeah.
And, we did all right. But I'll tell you what, when we built the lodge, when we built the cabins, and then you pulled away from guiding, which I know it was really hard for you.
Yeah, I was very.
It was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
Because you got to imagine, even a year in when we got everything built, and I'm cleaning toilets and cleaning, let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, I don't know, 20-something toilets and 20-something showers and making beds and, breaking my back. And then you're pulling up, high five, and you want to tell me your day. And I'm like, I just got through cleaning 20 toilets. I don't care about your day. But you know what? That subsided.
Yeah.
And it's been now the way everything's flowing and how we've got everything going, and it's all kind of like a machine. It's running good. It's a very happy business.
I was going to say, I don't think I've ever seen you happier, ever. Even when you were guiding,
Love my
I
job.
don't think I've ever seen you happier than you are now, as far as,
Yeah.
being here at the lodge, because I mean, here's the truth. Without you here, this place doesn't run. So, it just runs because you know how
We
to
have
make.
great staff too. I mean, it took a while to get in the right people, but gosh, I was so blessed because our staff is just phenomenal.
Yeah, we have a great
We have
staff. We have
great
great staff
staff.
all the way from the guide staff up to Don, overseeing everything.
Got to shout out to my girls, Betty, Renee, Amanda, and of course Dawn.
Yep.
And then we'll talk about our guys. We're going to interview it's not going to be just us all the time. We're going to bring in other guides. We're going to have some of our guides that work with us, and you can hear their experiences, and even other guides on the lake. And we have some surprises.
Yeah, and we're going to be doing some interviews with people in the fishing industry.
Yeah.
People that you would maybe not expect to see on a podcast. We're going to try to bring those people in as well. So it's going to be exciting. This is going to be a weekly thing. We're going to be talking more specifically. This is the first podcast. So we're kind of casting a vision. We're kind of talking about our history, kind of who we are. This is going to be a one and done. After this podcast, it's going to be more specific. We're going to be interviewing different.
Literally do a whole entire.
That scared me to death. If the lighting just changed, it's because there's a light over here and it has like a little diffuser
fell off
and it came off. I thought something was getting ready to get me, so I can't wait to see what that looks like on there. But hey, this is what a podcast is about. See, we couldn't do this on YouTube. We couldn't do it on other things. We can do it here, so which is exciting.
Yeah.
Hey.
I was saying that we literally could do a whole entire podcast on the struggles and the ups and downs of us being married and guiding. I mean, there's so many funny stories. Like, of course, I never get jealous or anything. So, having a husband, a good-looking husband that's guiding on a boat, with, a bunch of girls in bikinis, it takes a certain kind of, woman to be able to be okay with that, which I was always.
I think that's just, I think any woman watching, I think they would, if their husband was a fishing guy, I think they would completely understand that if he's got to go to work and, that's just part of what's on his boat for the day. I think that, you just got to the guy's just got to put his head down and do his work.
Yeah.
And then his wife's just got to understand that, every once in a while, you got to take everybody fishing. So,
That's so.
What are you going to do?
Yeah. And it works both ways. Like, I've had a couple of bachelor parties with guys on my boats without shirts, and I see Michael with binoculars.
Well, yeah, I was checking to see if y'all were catching fish or not. I had to see, really like, hey, are they even fishing over? What are they doing over there?
Yeah. No, we're teasing, but no, we've had ups and downs, but you know what? We always love each other. We always go to bed knowing we're not going to go to bed mad. Yeah. We're just like everybody else, but anyway.
So, hey, let's talk about this real quick because we don't have a lot of time left on the podcast.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I think everybody wants to know is what is next for Tawakoni Guide Service and what is next for Port O'Connor Offshore Adventures,
which is our saltwater side.
So I would like to know, and I've been dying to ask you this.
You're going to ask me?
What do you feel like is next for Lake Tawakoni Guide Service?
That's a really hard question. I mean, I'm just like anybody else. This is all like, I look at these businesses almost like a family. Like, all I want to do is see them grow. I want to see them make people happy. And I want to see them flourish. And I want to see the people that work with us, our guys that work with us, I want to see them flourish. I want to see them grow. And, we just hired 2 new guides, Jeremy and Chase, and then, of course, Mickey, but he's been guiding for a while. And we have Noel, who's been with us for over 8 years. So we've these young guys that we've hired, Jeremy's been with us for a year.
Yeah. But,
I want to see them grow. And same thing with Port O'Connor. That's a crazy business down there. Everybody loves the saltwater fish, and you love it. And, it's a crazy.
And you love it too.
I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy bull red fishing, and I enjoy catching snapper, and I enjoy catching amberjack. I caught my biggest amberjack a few years ago with you, and
actually Noel was on the boat that day.
Yeah, I literally, I cried because I always wanted to catch a big amberjack, but I'd never even had the opportunity. Like, it didn't work. But I caught one that one day, and it was like, what? How much do you think it was?
Oh, it's probably 60, 70.
There's a video out there on YouTube, and I literally was shaking once I got and took a long time to get that fish in. But when I got the fish in and it hit the boat, I literally sat down and started crying. It's like, what? It's crazy. You know what's crazy? And I just got to say this. Have you ever realized, and you guys out there, think about this, how much fishing brings people together? Like, for instance, you find a guy, you find someone in the store or whatever, and maybe I got a hoodie on that says, guide service or whatever. And how much, if someone knows you fish or they like to fish or you find a camaraderie with someone and fishing comes up, how that brings people together. It's not like any other sport, in my opinion. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, because if I overhear somebody in the grocery store talking about playing football or playing flag football or their son plays football,
right.
I mean, I played football in high school. I loved it. But hearing somebody else talk about football in the store, that's cool. It's on Monday nights, on Sunday, it's great. But if I hear, just like you said, if I hear somebody talking about fishing and then they're talking to somebody else about fishing, I'm probably going to sit like just outside of their zone so they don't know I'm eavesdropping. But I want to hear exactly what they're saying about it.
Right, yeah.
I want to know where they're fishing. I want to know if they're catching fish. I want to know what their tactics are. I want to know what kind of electronics they're using. And I want to hear their story about what they're catching.
Yeah.
And I'm very interested. So fishing, you're right. There is very few things like fishing. And you're right. It brings together.
It really does. And it's not only just customers and friends and so forth, but, even was it about 2 years ago, we had a bad storm come in and it blew the roof off of one of our buildings out here. It just made a huge mess. And word of mouth got around in the fishing community. These people, come here and help us pick up. Like, picking up wood and tree limbs and, that's just crazy.
Yeah, it really was.
That's just one example. I mean, I could probably think of a lot of them, but fishing really does bring people together.
Yeah, I think when you talk about what's next for Tawakoni Guide Service, what's next for us, the whole idea of growing this, our business. I don't know that the lake itself is close to 40,000 acres, and on any given time, it seems like that the 5 boats that we have out there on the lake is plenty. So I don't see us growing in the sense of like a bunch more boats on this same.
Oh yeah, I agree.
You know what I mean? I don't see that.
Maybe one more. We turn a lot of trips away.
Maybe one more, but I just I don't like the idea.
Not to grow though. I mean like growing internally.
Right, and that's kind of where I liked what you said. I feel like that's kind of more along the lines of growing the guides. There's nothing more I enjoy more than watching the guides doing what they love. I see myself in every one of those guys.
I know, yeah, I do too.
And I know what it's like because the guide business is so freaking stressful.
Yeah.
It just is. I don't care what anybody else says. There's something stressful about when people take their hard-earned money that a lot of cases may have taken them a week or two to make. Maybe one guy made it in 30 minutes, but most of these guys, it takes a week or two to make, an extra $600 or $700 or $800, depending on what trip they book with us. And then they show up and then they look at you and they see all these pictures on Facebook and on these different social media platforms, including our website. And they are, like you said, they come here, a kid, when they get to Disneyland, the kid sees it from a distance. They see the signage, they see the gates, they go through, Mickey Mouse is there, Minnie Mouse is there, and they freak out. And they're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, that is exactly how, for the most part, these folks feel when they get here.
They do. And they come in with smiles and they're so excited. You can just see it. And I promise you, if you fish with us, our guides, when you walk in that door, we're going to treat you as if you are coming to Disneyland and we're here to greet you.
Yeah, that's right. And so, but that creates a lot of freaking stress.
It does.
Because then you're like, I am relying somehow on, my ability. And in some cases, it's, some days are a lot better than others, but you're really trying to catch or put in the boat a creature that, like you said earlier, has tails. They swim, they move, they're affected by different, weather patterns, and all this has to be done. So there's a lot of stress that goes on in this thing we call guided fishing trips.
You know what keeps us doing it? And I'm going to tell you what keeps me, what kept me doing it for so long. I mean, I could go out and run a trip tomorrow if I wanted to, but by the time. What it's the smiles you put on people's faces. It's the when you see the families and how much it means to them, and they're spending time together. Maybe their kid's coming home from college and he wants to go fishing, and the mom and dad's taking him, or the dad and the brother and the uncle, whatever, and they spend that time together on the boat. And then they look at you at the end of the day, and the guy that booked the trip, and this has happened to me many times, and this has happened to you way more than it's ever happened to me. But they put their arm around you and they say, "Thank you. This was the best fishing trip of my life."
Yeah,
and we've heard that a lot.
that's a really,
And it's because we care about our customers, because we work hard on putting people on fish, and we want that for them as much as they want it for themselves.
Yep. So what is it about the idea of getting outside in December, January, and February, which we all know is the best time of the entire year to catch these monster trophy blue catfish on rod and reel? Yes, I did say catching a 50, 60, 70, 80-pound catfish on rod and reel in the winter. What is it about these fish that gets people out off their chairs and into the freezing cold temperatures to do this? I mean, what do you think?
Honestly, the love of fishing, and then it's like a bucket list item. People want to catch these giant fish, these big fish that are so big that when you net them and you get them in the boat, they will squeal. They will be like, ah. They've never seen a fish that big, freshwater fish. And then you take that same fish and you place it in their arms or their lap, and they're holding it. And they're just like, it's so docile. It's just sitting there, like, hey, fish,
Yeah, well, I mean, I can tell you this. The first time I held one up on my chest,
Yeah.
I remember thinking, this is the size of like a big dog.
Yeah.
And it swims
Fish.
in the lake. And the only way that I have ever heard that a fish like this could be caught is like on a trot line or on a snag line or, jug line. Something that, not on rod and reel. And if you did catch it on rod and reel, it surely was caught by mistake.
Accident.
But these fish are targeted in the winter. And I think that's what's unique is that, but here's the thing. When people deer hunt, when they go deer hunting, they don't hunt in the summer.
Yeah.
They go out and they buy the camouflage. They buy all their clothes.
Little hot hands,
and they, and they go out there and they freeze their butts off in hopes that they can get a shot or a chance.
But we're talking about Texas. When we say freeze, most of the time in the winter, it's in the 50s during the day and in the 30s at night. So
that's true. Yeah, you're right. It seems like once you get to January,
we're in Texas, so
we get one cold front a week.
Yeah.
And it seems like one day or maybe a day and a half out of the week, it's a north wind, a little bit colder conditions. But then for the next 4 or 5 days, it's a rebound.
That's right.
South wind turns right back around. And then, like you said, they show up with hoodies and a coat and maybe some rain pants over their jeans. But by 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock,
they're peeling off the
like for example, at the time of this podcast, it is right at the 1st of February.
Yep.
In 2025. And I have, and it's getting late, but I have a trip tomorrow. I have a trophy trip tomorrow. We have actually 4 boats out tomorrow.
That's right.
And everybody's fishing for trophy catfish. But here, check this out. It is 50 degrees outside right now. We've had a warm up. And tomorrow, it's going to be absolutely gorgeous. It's going to be in the mid-60s.
I think it's going to be in the 70s tomorrow.
It may be close to 70.
Yeah, 70 tomorrow, yeah.
And light winds.
78 on Monday.
And I'm gonna put a t-shirt on underneath my hoodie.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you by 11 or 12 o'clock tomorrow, at the beginning of February, I'm going to be in a t-shirt, a pair of jeans. And hopefully I'm going to have slime all over my chest where we're picking these fish up and handing
them to our customers.
We'll just have to see. So
you guys know, when we're catching these big fish, we're very careful with these fish. We try to promote catch and release. And so we're putting these fish back in the water.
Yep.
Catch, photo, and release.
And that's something that we'll unpack and we'll talk about all the nuances of, because I have some really strong opinions about certain things. I think there's some things that we're doing that we need to change. Tournaments, we want to talk about tournaments. There's a big tournament tomorrow in Ray Hubbard. Keeping these fish in these live wells for a long time. We need to talk about that. We need to discuss some of this. I do appreciate the fact that regulations are getting a little tighter on these live wells and stuff. But I just don't know what we're doing to these fish, to be honest with you. I think that we're hurting some of them. keeping them in these live wells for 6 to 7, 8 hours.
And that reminds me of something. I've heard it so many times. I've seen posts on social media, and we don't do drama, y'all. We don't get into drama. We don't get into negative posts. We walk away from that. We just don't do it. But I've seen a lot of times where people are saying, because we're guides, that we catch too many fish on the lake, that we're depleting the fish in the lake. How do you respond to that? How do you respond to that?
Well, I think if you just looked at our pictures on social media and on our website, I think you would see that in some cases, especially in the spring and summer and the fall, there are a lot of fish on the dock. And then if you take and you multiply that times at any given day during that time of the year, there's 3 or 4, 5, 6 boats out. So there's a lot of fish being harvested. So that's a great question to ask. Is it sustainable? Is the lake sustainable for this type of harvest? And I can tell you this without a shadow of a doubt, based on what I'm seeing and what I've seen for the last 15 years, we are not doing any damage at all to the overall population of fish. There are so many millions of fish in the water that, plucking a couple hundred in a day's time between several boats. Yes, that's not normal to most people, seeing all these fish laying out on the dock, guys cleaning them, taking bags of fish home and stuff like that, which I'd like to talk about that too at some point.
Yes,
we're taking fish home and about all that kind of stuff, because we need to talk about that.
Yeah.
But overall, when you look at like the actual biomass of white bass on the lake, the actual biomass of catfish on the lake,
and the hybrids are put in take.
The hybrids are stocked. It's they're highly regulated. You can only keep 5 per person a day. And it's not every day that we even run hybrid trips. It's not even every day that we run white bass trips. We're a multi-species guide service. Many days we're catching and releasing. We offer a discount on, in our business.
We would love not to clean this.
We encourage people. We actually take $50 off our trips if customers will run a catch and release trip. So we're rewarding the customer by not keeping them, but we're also rewarding ourselves by not having to clean them.
And it take the fish out of the lake.
And it keeps them in the lake. So, but as far as the question you asked was, do I feel like, to those that are saying, hey, you're probably hurting no.
And honestly, guys, we work with the biologists on the lake. You do more than me. We communicate with them. We let them know things. We give them, like the other day. What did you give the guy?
I gave him a head to a hybrid. They age him. We wanted to see what the age was of this large hybrid that was caught, and they actually took the bone out of its head and they dried it out. And there's like little rings, like a tree has rings.
Yeah,
you can age the tree. You can actually age the fish. So really cool. They're going to come back. They're going to give us the results.
Yeah,
they're going to give us the results. So y'all stay tuned on the podcast. We'll let you.
It's like donating a couple of giant catfish to the fisheries department.
Yep. So
one of them was a junior record. It's like a 60.
Junior state record.
Yeah, 65. Then the same day you caught like an 80-pound.
78.
Customer.
Yeah, and they it was funny. The live truck was coming from Athens, the Texas Freshwater Fishery Center. They came all the way out in Noel. His customer caught Braden. Caught a 67, which at the time was the state, junior state record. We actually, they came, Parks and Wildlife wanted the fish, so they actually came and got the fish, and they had made it all the way back to Canton, and a guy on my boat caught a 78.
You're like, hey, you want this?
And I called him. I was like, hey,
because the fish wasn't doing super good, and that the bigger fish.
Looking back, I kind of wish we wouldn't have donated that fish. I'd been nice to keep that fish in the lake, but nonetheless, it is what it is. We donated it to Parks and Wildlife, and they've got it. I don't know.
Still, last I heard, it was still thriving.
Hopefully it is.
Yeah.
So, but
we'll see.
Lots to talk about on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think we're going to wind it down for tonight.
If you guys have any suggestions on episode 2, if not, I'm sure we'll whoop up something. So today is, what is today? Today's January 31st. So we'll publish this tomorrow, February 1st. And so we'll put it out once a week, and that'll be on YouTube, social media, little clips, and then we'll post our podcast. So, high five!
All right, good job.
No, I had my hand out. You did me knuckles.
All right,
knuckles is like this.
All right, well, knuckles. All right, well, good deal. All right.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go home, get my rods rigged, get some stuff together, and then grab a little bit of dinner, and then it's time to get these customers on some fish tomorrow.
Yeah.
So, all right.
All right.
Y'all take care, and we'll see you next time.
Yep. God bless you guys. Thank you.